And testing 1, 2, 3. Everyone, let me know if I'm live and if you're receiving my audio correctly. You know, I'm great at messing up my audio. And yes, looks like I am successfully live. Everyone can hear me okay? Please drop a 1 in the chat so that I know that you get me okay. Class is in session, so welcome Sergeant Grinch, welcome Yaya. Excellent, thanks guys. Sister in Christ, R. Fortal, we've never spoken, we've never met. But yeah, anyway, you're still around. David Solo, yes, I'm doing all right. Hay fever. You know, that's about the worst I'm dealing with at the moment. It's that season. XYZ, welcome. Sergeant Grinch, Yakov, welcome. Of course, Deduza, or Kitsune, welcome. Deduza, there you are. So yeah, let's hope the power holds out. So welcome everyone. And okay, so let me see. A couple of things. So let me this is a preview of something I'm busy working on. I have dropped in my community page that I'm working on this. So I wanted to show you guys this, and I wanted to just sort of work through the flow, see if it's working all right. Bigfoot is an innocent alien. It's that Yeti you need to watch out for. You know that's right. The less spoken about Yeti. The renovations are done, Joel. Yeah, we had to do some work. It's compulsory here that with the heating, and it had to be changed. So yeah, that was several days of it was quite a mess. Mark II technologies, welcome. So okay, yeah, so tell you what, let's dive into this, and I want to show you guys something else I'm busy working on as well. Dimitri, shalom. All right, so this is something I'm busy working on. This is on early Bible translations. Eric Brown, welcome. How many do we have in the chat today? Let's have a look. 25. Oh, it's great. Paula Siditya. Welcome, Don K. Your wallpaper background is epic. Thank you. Glad you like it. Um, yeah. Okay. So I'm busy working on something at the moment. I'm actually, I'm probably working on about a dozen different projects right now. So I prioritize different ones at different times. As I come across some new information, I go and update the slides. Okay. So this is on early Bible translations. So it's a history of early Bible translations that I'm working on. And this goes back to the 7th century to Cadman, who started translating biblical stories into Old English. And this is actually really fascinating. I'm doing this in OneNote, which means I can probably share it with everyone afterwards. I can make this public. I tend to use PowerPoint, but OneNote's a really fantastic tool for doing these things. I can zoom in and do that. So this is some of the early Bible translations, 7th century from Cadman. We go to now this is fascinating. This is Old English. This is his hymn, right? The first hymn in England written. Okay, so actually, am I sharing? No, I'm not. Let me just share my audio. This is fascinating to hear Old English. It's so Germanic. It's got almost nothing in common with modern English.
Nu skulle han hergian, heaven reaches ward, meter de smachte on his modige thank. Werk ulder farer, swahe wundre wes, etche dristen, or onstella. He eres chop, erven barnum, heaven to ro.
Amazing. I hope you guys can hear that. That's quite incredible. Let's have a look at this one. It's actually often sung on the lyre, so I'll play this one.
Nu shulon herjan, heaven reaches word, Neotodes Mächte and his Morgethank. Der Kulder Feder, so he wundra gewiss, etche drichten, orumstjelde.
Yep, so that's just really incredible. Sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings a minute ago. Yeah, it does. So I'm busy working on this. That's the original. So I will probably be able to share this with you guys when it's done. And then we move to the Vespasian Psalter. I need to So some amazing stuff going on. So I'm still working on this one. And then we go to Tyndale and Wycliffe, and I'll be doing something on Wycliffe at some point as well, because yeah, Wycliffe, I need to get into this guy, John Wycliffe. John Wycliffe, yeah, good grief. So, okay, so that's that. So let me move this out of the way. Close that. And this is why we are here. So we are here to discuss Islam, Freemasons, Sufis, and Nazis, and the very curious case of Baron Rudolf von Sebottendorff. So let me see if I have any comments that came in. Let me just turn off my speaker sound in case. It's like Elvish in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it is. It's amazing, but that's Old English. It's Germanic. So that's from the Anglo-Saxon period. So the globe lie is mentioned over 200 times in the Bible. Yeah, look, I am not going to get into that. Language is a fascinating concept, yeah. Yeah, especially when you speak many of them, you get to see subtleties and differences in languages. And Operation Paperclip, yeah, Islamic origins. Welcome. Hey, Mel, thank you. Sounds like something out of Lord of the Rings a minute ago. Oh, so is Mel. Good grief. Yeah, a horse. Welcome. So, guys, we have Mel in the chat, Islamic origins. Great to see you there. The language was beautiful. Yeah, it's amazing. So, and Mal, the story of Bede, which is from the 7th, not Bede, no, Bede's, the story of Cadman and what happens to Cadman so parallels what happens to Muhammad. It's crazy. And it's from the similar time period. They were contemporaries. So, I mean, there's what is the possibility that this story was taken and then retroactively fitted into the Quran or fitted into Muhammad's narrative? I mean, that I've heard you speak about that before, and when I was looking at it today, I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, English was a very different language. So, look, Howard George, look, I am very, very careful. Just popping in this, Matt. Irish monks visited Jerusalem in 7th century. So yes, that would make sense, right? FP, welcome. Yeah. So anyway, today we're going to talk about Baron Rudolf von Sebottendorff, and we're not going to be talk about everyone's favorite conspiracy theories because, yeah, I am very careful about what I present. I provide sources, I provide references, I provide things that anyone can go look for and find so they can check the validity of the sources. I provide multiple corroborating sources. I need to be careful. I am not interested in pushing someone else's propaganda, and there's a lot of propaganda out there. Horse says, I'm surprised Beowulf didn't end up in there as well. Have we looked deeply enough? Have we checked all the sources? Horse. Because maybe it's in there somewhere. Okay, so these are the Sufis. So let's get on with this little crazy guy with a 1,000-yard stare. Yeah. So Howard, look, I'm not here to promote your personal theories. I'm not interested in people's personal pet theories. And there's, how can I say this? There's a lot of bullshit out there. A lot. Okay? Most of what I'm told by people when it comes to Jews, the Catholic Church, and a whole bunch of things has been utter trash. So I carefully review them for myself. I put the information forward, and yeah. So moving on. Okay, remaking the world. So someone famous once said, he who has seen in National Socialism only a political movement has seen nothing. So, and this was said by a man called Adolf Hitler. Oh, that guy, sorry, typo. Right, so if you've only seen a political movement, you've missed a lot of what was happening in National Socialism. Let's continue. So Hitler in 1931 has an interview and he reveals his purpose. Not Martin Lucifer. Yeah, same guy, maybe very, very similar in ways. In a 1931 interview, okay, with a Leipzig newspaper editor, Adolf Hitler made a declaration of the true significance of his National Socialist movement. He says the Frenchman Gobineau and the Englishman Chamberlain, that's the Peace in Our Time guy, were inspired by our concept of a new order. A new order, I tell you. Or, if you prefer, an ideological glimpse into history in accordance with the basic principle of the blood. So yeah, he's speaking of a new world order, and this is in alignment with the basic principle of the blood. We do not judge by merely artistic or military standards, or even by purely scientific ones, even though they were supposed to be very scientific. We judge by the spiritual energy which a people is capable of putting forth. Spiritual energy. Think magic. which will enable it in 10 years to recapture what it has lost in 1,000 years of warfare. I intend to set up a 1,000-year Reich. Now, this actually is an allusion to the New Testament, where Paul or Peter speaks of a 1,000-year reign, right? And anyone who supports me in battle is a fellow fighter for a unique, spiritual, I would almost say, a divine creation. So Hitler was involved in a divine crusade. So I'm going to watch this a little later, says Islamic Origins. I've been editing a coming interview with the head of INARA, Dr. Robert Kerr, releasing it at 9 p.m. Fantastic. Looking forward to that. Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to that, Mal. Fantastic stuff, man. Yeah, and then Don K. It is so refreshing to see diligence even in the curating of information, regardless of, and especially being aware of your own prejudice or preformed ideas. Keeps you truthful. Yeah, thank you. I do try. So guys, so remember, Islamic Origins, look it up later. That's in a couple of hours. Well, no, actually, no, it's 30 minutes. So that's fantastic. All right. So Hitler was involved in a crusade to bring about a new order, a new divine order. But what kind of divine order? Now, atheists, Muslims love to say Hitler was a Christian. I've got another series I will do on that specifically as well. But the two do connect. They do run parallel to each other. So, of course, they want to claim that Hitler was a Christian, you know. So, yeah, which obviously with the implication that Hitler's ideas came directly out of the New Testament, which we know is completely false. But let's have a look at how Islam fits into this picture and how Gnosticism, nonsense, fits into this picture. And he says, at the decisive moment, the decisive factor is not the ratio of strength, but the spiritual force employed. Betrayal of the nation is possible even when no crime has been committed. In other words, when a historical mission has not been fulfilled. So he is busy on a historical mission. And he believes there's a purpose to history, that history has a purpose. This is a very Marxist belief. This is a very communist, socialist belief. In fact, it's even an atheist belief that there's a purpose to history. History has a purpose, a telos, I believe the word is. And he is wanting to take it to that purpose. So he's on a divine mission. For which God? Well, we're going to have to see which God it is. All right, let's continue. Tea with Hitler. This is Rudolf von Sebottendorff. He's a little known beyond those interested in the occult, in astrology, and the esoteric. Yet, he helped inspire Hitler and Nazism. Right? In 1918, he created the secret society of Thule for the consolidation, compendium, and systematization of scientific racism and the mystical and esoteric Nazi inspirations. Now, the sad thing is, this is a preview, right? So this is early, so some things will change in the future. I pasted this in, I found this somewhere, and I can no longer find the source where I got this. And if I cannot find the source, I'm going to have to take this out, right? I have other sources that corroborate this idea, but I cannot find the exact source where I got this. So I'm still looking for it. Once I find it, then I'll be able to confidently put it in because I know I can get back to the source I got it from. But anyway, the consolidation, compendium, and systematization of scientific racism and the mystical and esoteric Nazi traditions. Mystical and esoteric, that really sounds like the occult, right? So the secret society of Thule, he participated in the creation of the German Workers' Party, the DAP, which under Hitler became the National Socialist Party, the NSDAP, okay? The National Socialist Deutsche Arbeiterspartei, German Workers' Party. So he created the German Workers' Party, effectively. Poison tea with Hitler. But Hitler's the one that looks nervous. Hitler's the one that looks frightened. You know, notice Hitler's the one that looks pensive here. This guy looks, a little too gleeful. Something wrong with this guy. And of course, this is Baron von Sebottendorff. So how can history have a purpose but not the future, Assisting Grass? That's a good question. Okay, everyone claimed divinity, Romulus and Remus. Yeah, and don't forget, you see, what you need to understand is that the Bible was going to be replaced with a book called My Jihad. You know, Hitler wrote a book called My Jihad, Mein Kampf, right? And this was to replace the Bible, and Hitler was going to replace Jesus as the Messiah. This was the whole point of the Nazi religion. After the 1933 publication of Before Hitler Came, documents from the early days of National Socialism, in which he took credit for inspiring Hitler's Mein Kampf in 1925, he lost favor. Now, I will make a note. There's a channel called, Esoteric Philosophy or Esotericism or whatever this channel is, I can't remember. Not important. They are putting forth what I find very odd is they are putting forth several Sufi-based videos discussing Baron von Sebottendorff and discussing the Sufi, and basically the Sufis really are about love and about loving yourself. Esoterica, not esoterica. Justin Sledge. If it's before you ask me, I think Justin Sledge talks crap. So there you have my view. So I have no interest in what he has to say. But it's a different channel. It's a smaller channel. And so this guy's putting forth all of these videos on the Sufis. And the Sufis they just want to express their love of the world, the love of you. They want to bring out the best in humanity. And this guy, and I said, hey, look, because he commented on my channel, and I was like, look, you are sort of overlooking all of Sufism and Baron von Sebottendorff's connections to the Nazis, because he claims outright in the video that the man had nothing to do with Nazism, nothing to do with Nazism, nothing really, and it's false. Okay, he's trying to put forward this beautiful whitewashed fake picture of Sufism, and it's like, well, I was just trying to talk about their spiritual connections. Yeah, we've read the Sharia. I happen to know it, and the Sufis are as filthy as any of these crazy, Sharia adherent Muslims. I noticed in the comments they are watching you. Who's watching me, Deduza? If you can just specify. Hitler liked Islam more than Christianity because Muslims are easy to control. Christians use logic and would not betray God. Well, that is kind of true. Hitler often went to the Antarctica before the UN made the treaty to prevent independent exploration and say, okay, Howard, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to silence you if you keep this up. I'm not interested in that. Okay. So, yeah, I'm just, okay. The Nazis, okay, so now let's have a look. Baron von Sebottendorff, this is him here. That's the larger photo, and that's him again. His original name is Adam Alfred Rudolf Glauer. He was born in Hoyerswerda, Germany, and he was the son of a locomotive driver from Dresden. Okay, buddy, so hold on. Okay, you are distracting me and you are annoying me, so I'm going to put you in timeout. If you don't come back, I am not going to shed a tear. Now, 9th November, okay, so he was born 9th November 1875, and he lived until 8th of May 1945. So he dies in 1945, or maybe 1950, right? So there's already an oddity about his date of death. But not only that, the place of death. He died in Constantinople, or he died in Egypt, in Cairo. That's something very odd. Which channel, Deduza, are you talking about? The one with the Sufi dude, or Justin Sledge from Esoterica? Just the Sufi guy, that guy. Okay, so in 1910, now he founded a mystical lodge in Constantinople, which is a tariqat of the Bektashi order of Sufis. Okay, the next year, he's legally adopted by the German expatriate Heinrich von Sebottendorff, and also becomes a legal citizen of Turkey. So the guy's like, what, 36 years old, and he's adopted at the age 36. Now, mostly, I think, I could be wrong. Please let me know in the comments. I'm from Africa, so, my education is a legacy of apartheid. I could be wrong here, but usually you get adopted when you're like a child. Now, his adoption is later repeated twice more by other Sebottendorff family members. He gets adopted 3 times at the age of 36. Huh? There must be a story there. There must be a story there. Let's continue. Let's look at Sebottendorff and the Young Turks. On 9th November 1875, yeah, thrice. Why? Exactly. Is there some kind of family connection? Does he have to be part of the family to be indoctrinated rather than adopted? Yeah, but does he have to be part of the family to inherit something? Does he have to be part of the family to inherit the secrets? Is there something that's, yeah, who knows? So he apparently died in Istanbul, or he died in Egypt in 1950. We're not quite sure of that. He was also known as Rudolf Freiherr von Sebottendorff, also known as Erwin Thor. Thor is German for door. So this is an adaptation of the German word Tor for door. Erwin Door, the door to something, the doorway to something. They did adopt later in life to continue the family legacy. Okay, well, and the family legacy was weird because he was a German occultist, he was a writer, he was also apparently an intelligence agent and a political activist. He was the founder of the German Occultist Thule Society that influenced many members of the Nazi Party. I'm going to be repeating certain information on various slides as we go because, one, people forget, And two, I just found it easier to just leave it in because it reminds people, So Freemason, okay, he was a Freemason and he was a Sufi of the Bektashi order after his conversion to Islam. He practiced meditation, astrology, numerology, and alchemy. Alchemy, oddly enough, so we've traced it now to the Arabic, alchemia, right? Or whatever. However, it actually traces back prior to the Arabic to the Egyptian. So we can actually take it back to the Egyptians. So you're going to have to look up, it's a bit of a late reference, which is weird, but it might tell us that this is not as old as people make it out to be. You have to look up Zosimos. Okay, Zosimos, to look up alchemy. So alchemy, like, as in Kemet. I'm not into the whole Kemet stuff and the whole blackwashing of the world, but anyway, so think of chemistry, right? So this is kind of where that seems to be coming from. Kemet, yeah, something like that. But just when I hear American blacks redoing world history, like, the whole Cleopatra's black scandal, and everyone is black and no one was white ever, you're like, okay, fine, man, you guys are off. Yeah, you guys are off your meds. Okay, so anywho, in 1901, von Sebottendorff was initiated into a Masonic lodge, which, like many in the Middle East, had connections with the French Grand Orient, which is fascinating because the French Grand Orient, we can probably trace that back into the French Revolution and the crazy Gnostics and the Socialists and the crazy atheists. So there might be something there. I've seen connections to the French Grand Orient. I need to look into that to see who else is connected there. I don't recall any of this in Schreier's Rise and Fall. Amazing. Yeah, I know. It's amazing what people leave out, right? Horse. So the Masonic Lodge, which Glauer had joined at Bursa in 1901, may have been a local cadre of the revolutionary secret society called the Committee of Union and Progress, who are a subset of the Young Turks. Basically, they are the Young Turks, the perpetrators of the Armenian genocide. So he joins a group that is a revolutionary group that is part of the Young Turks who perpetrated the Armenian genocide, murdered over 1 million Armenians. And this group is founded on the model of Freemasonry by Turks from Salonika. And they want to generate liberal consciousness during the repressive reign of the Sultan, according to Goodrick Clark. All right, that's in his book. And we will look at his book more as we go. So this is interesting. Now, his Islamic conversion is attested by Mark Cedric against the Modern World, Oxford University Press, okay? And he became an Ottoman citizen in 1911. He fought on the Ottoman Turkish side in the First Balkan War and returned to Germany with a Turkish passport in 1913. Right, so this guy Armenian is one of the first kingdoms to convert to Christianity. Yes, not just Armenian, mate. Around 400,000 Greeks too. Okay, thanks, Author Christos, yeah. Okay, so there's something about this guy. Intelligence agents, political activist, Freemason, involved in secret societies, involved with the Young Turks. Okay, so things get weird. So anyway, let's have a look at Hitler's views on Islam. He says, I'm sure that the Japanese, the Chinese, and the peoples of Islam will always be closer to us than, for example, France, in spite of the fact that we are related by blood. Now, that's interesting because, of course, the Japanese were, well, crazy. Few people realize the reason that the Japanese had the bomb dropped on them was because of their fanaticism, right? Because of the fanaticism of the Japanese soldiers. They would not give up. The cost of a land war, of pursuing a land war, and the time, they figured it would take years and cost hundreds of thousands of lives to pursue a land war against the Japanese. They were zealots, correct? And therefore, the simplest, easiest way was just drop the bomb for very practical reasons as well. Another great presentation. Thank you, Katie, Native Sister. Much appreciated. Thank you. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Yeah. So it's odd that France is right next to Germany, right? And yet he's saying that the Japanese, the Chinese, and so on, these fanatics, these wartime fanatics, and these were very cruel people. They were vicious. I mean, vicious, right? You see, it's been our misfortune to have the wrong religion, he says. Why didn't we have the religion of the Japanese, who regard sacrifice for the fatherland as the highest good? Jihad, right? For the fatherland, to die in battle, fanatical belief to the emperor, samurai code, yes, XYZ. The Mohammedan religion, Islam, right? Too, would have been more compatible to us than Christianity, because Hitler's a good Catholic, as you know. That's why you always say, we would have been better off under Islam, because that's what Christians always say. Why did it have to be Christianity with its meekness and flabbiness? Under the guidance of the Reich, Europe would speedily have become unified. Once the Jewish poison had been eradicated, unification would have been an easy matter. Once the Jewish poison... Now, here's the thing. Hitler almost never... You won't find like a lot of like public discussions around his hatred of the Slavs or the Poles. He was going to wipe out the Poles. He was going to eliminate the Slavs. He was going to kill millions of Slavic peoples, right? Now, we know for a fact, and he barely spoke about it or wrote about it. I mean, no one's focusing on that whatsoever. Yet the man wrote endlessly, spoke endlessly about the Jews, and then idiots come along and like, well, you know, Hitler didn't kill one single Jew, not one, not a single one, Lloyd, not one. You're like, how stupid do you have to be? How deliberately blind and stupid do these people have to be? So once we've eliminated or eradicated the Jewish poison, okay, then unification would have been an easy matter. France and Italy, because he believed that the Jews were dividing people, were dividing Europe. So the atrocities committed by the Japanese were abhorrent, to say the least. Yes. Now, France and Italy, each defeated in turn at an interval of a few months by the two Germanic powers, would have been well out of it. Both would have had to renounce their inappropriate aspirations to greatness, because they can't be great, because Germany, the Aryans, must be great. Right? At the same time, they would have had to renounce their pretensions in North Africa and the Near East, and that would have allowed Europe, that means a unified Europe under Germany, under the Aryans, to pursue a bold policy of friendship towards Islam. Well, we know the Muslims pursued a bold policy of friendship towards the Nazis, right? Just so you know, the Palestinians had a wonderful Hitler Youth Society. So yeah, they were all for it. Okay, let's have a look here. He said, had Charles Martel not been victorious at Poitiers, then we should in all probability have been converted to Mohammedanism. That cult, which glorifies the heroism and which opens up the seventh heaven to the bold warrior alone. Then the Germanic races would have conquered the world under the banner of Islam. Fantastic. Yeah, so yeah, that's what any true Christian would say, right? Yeah, we need to be conquered by Islam, then we need to go do jihad on everybody. So yeah, I mean, he seems to be a little bit fond of Islam here, right? Then, of course, this guy, Martin Luther, by the way, Martin Luther created Christianity in 1537. As I recall. So this is the founder of a religion called Christianity, this guy. So, so Big Solar says, atheists do not understand how much they have to thank Christianity for today's moral science, clarity and easy life, everything we have. Yes, but of course they'll lie about it. So yeah, I mean, like, you know, yeah, but that's a story. Don't worry, I'll be doing atheism. I'll be doing a talk on atheism, an updated talk on atheism next week. It's called The Cult of Reason. Atheism is the cult of reason. It is a cult. It is actually, we'll talk about it. I'm going to go into the history. I'll be revealing some interesting new history about the Enlightenment, atheists, and not all there. Exactly. Luther was the true Messiah. Yes. Okay, let's have a look. He said, Luther tells us, we see that the religion of the Turks, or Muhammad, is far more splendid in ceremonies, and I might almost say in customs, than ours, even including that of the religious or all the clerics. The modesty and simplicity of their food, clothing, dwellings, and everything else, as well as the fast, prayers, and common gatherings of the people that this book reveals, are nowhere seen among us. Our religions are mere shadows when compared to them, to the Muslims, to Islam. And our people are clearly profane compared to theirs, because they are really properly religious, right? Not even true Christians, nor Christ himself, man, that really bites me, nor Christ himself, not the apostles or prophets, ever exhibited so great a display of religion. Thanks, Martin. Much appreciated. You see, this is why many persons so easily depart from faith in Christ for Mohammedanism and adhere to it so tenaciously. I sincerely believe that no papist, no monk, cleric, or their equal in faith would be able to remain in their faith if they should spend 3 days among the Turks. I hope he didn't spend 3 days there, because then I'd have to worry. Yeah, how does he even claim to be Christian? Yes, I know. It's kind of weird. So the effusive praise is getting deep. Yeah, so look, now here's a nice thing. Fans of Martin Luther, of Muhammad Luther, are going to come and say, well, Lloyd, wait, you know, Luther actually also said this, and he said this. So basically, this is like, you know, the Quran says this, and then a Muslim will go, but the Quran also says that, and you'll say, but the Quran says this, and they'll say, the Quran says that. Because oddly enough, the very same is found in Martin Luther's writings. You see, he said A, then you can say B, but he said C. They'll say, no, but D. And then you say E, but they say, no, but F. So yeah, we've got exactly the same pattern going on here. Moving on. So this is the Grand Mufti. So I'm putting the pieces down so we can get to know a little bit about what's going on at the time and the people and the players. This is the Grand Mufti and Hitler in 1941. There's actually a video of this. It's actually very interesting. See a video of the guy doing the little Nazi salute and all that. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, was given honorary Aryan status by Hitler and the rank of SS Major General for his collaboration with Hitler and the Third Reich. He was actually, the UN War Criminal Council, the War Criminal Commission, actually named him a war criminal, right? He escaped, and yeah, let's just say he escaped. Somehow he got out, and yeah, then that's that. So yeah, he didn't die in a prison as he should have. That is a lie. I spent my 35 years in the middle, was not able to touch my faith in Christ because Christ is so nigh and holy in everything. Yeah. So I thought you were the Grand Mufti, Lloyd. Was he? No, he was not. He died peacefully in his sleep, probably. Yeah. So this is the Grand Mufti. This is him with Hitler. This is the guy here. This is him with his troops. Don't forget, the largest Nazi SS division in the German army was the Muslim division, right? That's him with his little Nazi salute. There's several of those. That's him with Heinrich Himmler. That's him having, lunch or whatever with the Nazis. So, yeah. So, Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS. After meeting Hitler and Ribbentrop in Berlin in 1941, the Mufti was approached by Gottlob Berger, head of the SS main office, in control of recruiting, and he was made part of the SS apparatus. In May 1943, the Mufti was moved to the main office where he participated in recruiting Muslims in the Balkans, the USSR, the Middle East, and North Africa. The Grand Mufti was instrumental in organizing and formation of many Muslim units and formations in the Waffen-SS. Don't forget the SS, the Death's Head Division, the private army of the Nazi Party. And the largest unit was the Muslim unit. And the Wehrmacht, hundreds of thousands of Muslims fought for Nazi Germany. And the SS was the Schutzstaffel, the protective echelon, the political soldiers of the Nazi Party. He helped raise Bosnian, Albanian, Serbian SS battalions, and others too. He was indicted by Yugoslavia at the United Nations War Crimes Commission for atrocities. He escaped from Paris. He was held in France, and of course he escaped. The genocidal Mufti and the Nazis. So in 1943, here we're going to show a 1943 telegram from Nazi SS leader Heinrich Himmler to Husseini, written in German. Okay, it was sent in 1943 to mark 26 years since the British government issued the Balfour Declaration. And it reads, to the Grand Mufti Amin al-Husseini, from the outset, the National Socialist Movement of Greater Germany has been a standard bearer in the battle against world Jewry. They're fighting against the Jews of the world. For this reason, it is closely following the battle of freedom-seeking Arabs, particularly in Palestine against the Jewish invaders. I have a series called the Palestinian Occupation of Israel. It should annoy a lot of people, but yeah, have a look at that. It goes into a lot of depth on this. Right? The shared recognition of the enemy and the joint fight against it are creating the strong base uniting Germany and the Muslims, blah, 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 blah. Right? And he's SS commander of the entire... This is the actual whatever. This is what he actually sent the Mufti. So this is their little love letter to each other. Let me see. What do we have, Michael? I don't know of any Serbian SS units. According to the notes I have, that's what was stated. So, how dumb of them trying to scroll down, trying to read it. So, yeah. Okay, so the Jerusalem Grand Mufti, war criminal. In July 1945, the United Nations War Crimes Commission listed Husseini as war criminal on the basis of Yugoslavia's indictment for his role in creating Bosnian SS battalions. The material provides more than primary evidence of Husseini's criminality. The archive offers context that while he did not arrive in Berlin a Nazi, he certainly fled Germany as one. Also, in terms of, where was Michael's comment? Even if there weren't any Serbian units, they were active in Serbia, to my knowledge. So, because I definitely saw the word Serbia mentioned in the context of this guy. Is it true Nazi soldiers are Muslims? Of course, there were thousands of them, at least 70,000 of them. Arnold Nathaniel, Serbian. Okay, there you go. German. Serbisches SS Corps. Hey, thank you. Thanks for passing that on. Always wondered why the SS have so many members. Yeah, they're the Muslim members. Okay, so the swastika and the crescent. So this is an article called Swastika and the Crescent by Wilson Quarterly. This is Eva Braun's sister, Ilse. Okay, this is Eva Braun was Hitler's girlfriend. Okay, Now, Hitler showed himself equally fascinated with Islam. So this isn't an interview that she says this in an interview. After the war, Eva Braun's sister Ilse remembered his frequent discussions on the topic, repeatedly comparing Islam with Christianity in order to devalue Christianity. In contrast to Islam, which he saw as a strong and practical faith, he described Christianity as a soft, artificial, weak religion of suffering. Islam was a religion of the here and now, Hitler told his entourage, while Christianity was a religion of a kingdom yet to come, one that was deeply unattractive compared to the paradise promised by Islam, which is something a good Christian would say, of course. Right, so understand, atheists have no interest in truth, right? Muslims have no interest in truth. Obviously, they want to distance themselves from their tight association with the Nazis during the war, right? And in fact, you still have the Palestinians very much in love with the Nazi flag and Nazi ideology. And then, of course, they had the Nazi youth. Well, as I said, my talk on the Palestinian occupation of Israel, have a look at that. And yeah, atheists don't care. They want to destroy. Atheism is not neutral. It wants to destroy Christianity. Now, I mentioned earlier that Hitler was talking about establishing a new order, a new religious order. This all goes back to a heresy from the 12th or 11th century. One that actually, oddly enough, Muhammad Luther also happened to be very much influenced by. So this was a heresy from a guy called Joachim of Fiore. Let me just bring that up. Yeah, best I show this guy again. Okay. So Joachim of Fiore. Oddly enough, heresy is actually a serious thing. It's actually amazing how serious the accusations of heresy were, because one of the results, right, the actual outcomes of these heresies. So short version, let me try and be quick because I've got this in another presentation. Joachim, he had this idea of multiple ages, 3 ages, which is why there's this common discussion of 3 ages. And the new age would be one without the clerics. The priests would all dissolve, would just evaporate in the sunlight, and man would read the Bible for himself. The Holy Spirit would talk in his ear, and, he would basically hear the voices. The voices would tell him, what to think, and then blah, 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 and you wouldn't have clerics anymore. He was anti-clerical, right? Martin Luther took up this flag, and so did a bunch of people, and oddly enough, he influenced even the Nazis, right? And then the new age was going to come, because everyone was going to follow their own internal religion. God told me to, the voices told me to go murder the Jews, right? That's basically what we end up with. So Treasure Best says, hello, thanks again for all this work. You're welcome. Laurie Pellegrini says, interesting. Hallelujah. Islam is a very attractive paradise. It's a sex brothel, correct? Right. Okay, Tony, you are late. 5 push-ups, please. The atheists, of course, only want to destroy Christianity. Yes, that's true. Atheists don't set out to destroy it. It makes a mockery of all religions. I will be talking about atheism on Sam Shamoon's channel next week. So yeah, I'll be discussing atheism in depth, the history of atheism. It is an embarrassment. It's a shameful embarrassment for atheists, which is why they don't want to talk about it. Believe me, once you unpack atheism's modern history, even if you go back to ancient atheism, atheists, man, there is so much shameful violence, so much debauchery, so much political subversion, okay, genocide, tightly linked to atheism. No wonder atheists want to claim that they don't have any beliefs. Seriously, we will be talking about that. So atheism has blood on its hands, a serious amount of blood. Don't let them fool you. Those atheists are embarrassed. They should be deeply ashamed of their beliefs. So isn't it Satanism in disguise? Yes, actually, believe me, yes, you can actually, yes, and yes. The answer to that is yes. We will talk about that. Okay, so let's continue. This is what Hitler says. He perceived Islam to be a superior religion, yet Hitler saw its Arab adherents as an inferior race. Right? He believed that, okay, so Arnold Nathaniel, thank you for that. He says, Joachim Fiore, age of the Father, age of the Son, and age of the Holy Spirit. Yeah, and then he had certain ideas wrapped around those. Right? He believed that Christianity had universalized the terrorism of religion. So religion was a terrorism, you see, but Islam was great. A result of the Jewish dogma, because the Jews had distorted Christianity. I wonder if you got that from the Muslims, because the Muslims say the same thing. Islam, meanwhile, offered a promise of happiness. Wow, thanks, Hitler. So yeah, I guess Hitler said that because he was a good Christian. Right? This is Himmler. he had left the Catholic Church in 1936. Here's where the atheists jump in. No, he was a Christian. Yeah, he was once upon a time. And then he became, I don't know. It's like Marx was an atheist, but he was a Christian. No, he became an atheist. He left that because you guys said that religion's bad. In fact, to be a member of the Communist Party, you must renounce religion. You have to abandon Christianity. You cannot belong to a church and be religious if you belong to the Communist Party. So Himmler, who had left the Catholic Church in 1936, bemoaned that Christianity made no promises to soldiers who died in battle. There was no reward for bravery. He saw Islam as a religion of people's soldiers, a practical faith that offered believers guidance for everyday life. That's what a good Christian would say. And then, of course, as early as 1935, the German propaganda ministry told the press to avoid the terms anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism, and to instead use terms like anti-Jewish, because they were anti-Jewish, and because they would, as I get told so often, they didn't kill a single Jew. Anyway, so the fight was against Jews, not Semites in general. Why? Because Arabs are Semites. Thank you, Lloyd, for educating us until today. I thought he was a Christian. Of course not. You're welcome. I hope this helps. It is hard to follow two masters. Yeah, because as they say, when you follow two masters, you have to lie to one. Okay, so most people forget that a lot of Nazis were ex-Christian. Of course, look, we will talk. I have another set of slides on the Nazi religion. Of course, they had their own theologians who rewrote the New Testament. They wrote a whole new chronology, a whole new history of Jesus. Jesus was not even a Jew. Jesus was the son of a Roman soldier, blah, 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 blah. I mean, seriously, they did a whole job on that. So, yeah, and we'll talk about that another time. So, what did I miss, if anything? Christianity was not soft in the Crusades. Sadly, the Crusade is seen as a bad thing in the West. Yeah, it was a very good thing. It was a very necessary thing. The French national bath killed more people in one day than the Inquisition in 300 years. Yes, we will talk about that. I will come to that in my talk on atheism. Once I start on that next week. Rosemary, I'm an agnostic atheist, but this Muslim argument that Hitler was a Christian is very naive. A man appealing to what is supposed to be a Christian nation will present himself as such. Well, yeah, atheists say he's a Christian too. Thank you, Lloyd. I had no idea until you presented this info. Yeah, I'll have a second set of slides on this. So, to ensure that Nazi Muslim soldier morale was kept high, the German commanders were given special training, which taught them how to uphold the Islamic religion of these soldiers. There's even video you'll see of Germans, soldiers, German officers, praying the Muslim way, right? Doing the Muslim prayer. It's crazy to see. At the same time, unique propaganda material was printed by the Germans for these soldiers, which reiterated Islam's hatred for the Jews. I don't see them holding the New Testament because, of course, the Nazis created their own New Testament, a wholly new edited New Testament, right? A completely rewritten one. And this one says Islam und Judentum, Islam and Jewish, and the Jewish nation. Right, or Judaism, Islam and Judaism. Laurie Pellegrini says, this is a paradigm shift to what I thought I knew. Thanks, you're welcome. Yeah. Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, guys, if you do enjoy this, please do give the show a like, share it with your friends, tell people about it. And, oh, by the way, I'm over 9,000. Hold on, actually, let me find it. I need to get a look at that. Yeah, that's yeah, this is fantastic. So I'm over 9,000. So yeah, that's fantastic, guys. I want to say thank you very much for all the great support. It's been very much appreciated. Did the Nazis not know that Jesus is Jewish? They decided that Jesus could not be Jewish. He was an Aryan. He was a warrior, and he fought against the Jewish people. He fought against Jewishness. And he was the son of a Roman soldier. So let me see. The Muslim SS units were accompanied by the imams. The German SS had no chaplains of any religion. That's a very good point. Thank you, Michael Petek. That is a really good point. I need to make a note of that. I'm going to dump that in my little notepad here. That's actually really interesting. I get a lot of great ideas from the audience, and I want to thank you for that, because a lot of these ideas come from you, right? So, okay, let's oh, by the way, don't forget, these are Muslims wearing the little Sufi cap. These, they've got the death's head here and the Nazi eagle and all of that. That's all fantastic. So, yeah, I'm failing to see the Christian cross here myself, but yeah. So let's continue. this is the Thule Society. So back to the Thule Society. I just wanted to lay some groundwork, give you guys some perspective on what's happening. Martin Ackerman says, did Hitler ever say anything about or acknowledge how those Muslims were Jews or Semitic once upon a time? I don't know. He might have. I don't know. I can go through. Are they wearing the fez? Yes, they're wearing the fez. Yes, they're wearing the fez. They're wearing the fez, the Sufi fez, like I just said. Yeah. Thank you, Rosemary. I do appreciate that comment. Yeah, so let people know about the channel and the work that I do here. So this is the Thule Society letterhead. This says Thule Gesellschaft München, right? And oddly enough, let's have a look. This is from the Stadtarchiv München, right? Ausschnitt, so a sample, okay? Little sample, a piece. This is the Thule Society logo. Notice how it resembles the Nazi logo, the swastika, right? It's just rounded, okay? And here you've got, notice the actual swastika itself on the Thule Society. So you'll see here there's a dagger with a crescent moon, with an Islamic style crescent moon, which I find really odd. This is that looks like a turban. This could well be a turban here, right? The Turkish, remember there's a Turkish influence here. And then you've got the sun around that, okay? So you've got now, this is the logo, there's the swastika, and you can see the similarity here between the two. So this is just a modified version of the Thule Society logo. Right. So clearly there's an influence here that, because we will talk about how this Muslim set up the Thule Society, which was joined by Hitler and a bunch of Nazis, who then turned it into the Nazi Party. So the Nazi Party originated from a Muslim secret society organization. So let me see. Now 100K next. Thank you, Yakov. I'm working on that. The correlations of the Ottomans in World War I. Germans were allied with Turkey and were trying to re-establish the Ottoman Empire. That's why the swastika was hijacked from India. Yeah. So why Nazis which belong to Buddhism? Yeah, the Thule Society was using it. So that's like a runic cross. So this is called, now, few people realize, I wouldn't get too much into the Buddhist aspect of this. I wouldn't get too much into that aspect of it. Just ignore that. Okay. Just seriously, you can live a long, happy life, never ever hearing the words that, oh, but this is actually a Buddhist symbol of peace and the Nazis ruined it. Seriously, you can get by your whole life without ever knowing that, and you'll be just fine. In fact, you're probably better off because you'll find more interesting information. So this is called the Hakenkreuz. Okay, so one of the names for this that few people realize, because they call it the swastika, and because the Nazis don't care about your ideas, they cared about theirs. It's called the Hakenkreuz. Kreuz meaning cross. Haken, the hook, the broken cross, right? So think of it as the hook cross, the broken cross, the Hakenkreuz. It's basically a corruption of the cross. Understand? It's got jack to do with Buddhism in this context. This is the broken cross. Okay, let me see here. World War III definitely caused by Islam. Probably swastika comes from a Sanskrit word swastika. Yeah, that's fine, but they called it the Hakenkreuz. Look, it may resemble the swastika. Do me a favor, forget that. Just ignore that for now. Just ignore that for now, right? Let's just stick with this side of it, right? So John Smith says, God bless you. Thank you very much. You're a true researcher who deep dives and brings up the Germans that are buried deep by modern society and its deceiving media. Oh yeah. Academia will lie to you too. Don Kay says, after every session of yours I watch, there's a paradigm shift in my perspective and knowledge. The Luther stuff was shocking. Paradigm shift polemics at the name of your channel. Thank you. Wow, that's paradigm shift polemics. The pick says it all when you know what to look for. Interesting, Sister in Christ. Okay, now. Right, so Hans Frank was a Nazi lawyer and a future governor general of Poland. At that time, he was involved with the Society for Heraldic and Genealogical Research, headed by Dr. W. Daumenlang. Daumenlang had discovered in the Hohenzollern coat of arms the Hakenkreuz, which we know as the swastika, fine and well, under the form of a solar wheel. So you've got a solar wheel and you've got the Hakenkreuz, right? Now we're back to this. So that's the guy here. This is Hans Frank, right? Now, in his book, Before Hitler Came, or Before Hitler Kam, in 1933, Sebottendorff recalls the esoteric source of his doctrine. So now he speaks about the magical aspects. People have been asking me a lot about the magic in Islam, and so now we're starting to dig into this. The issue is that I need to be very careful because I don't want to come across as, the guy with the crazy hair in Ancient Aliens. I don't want to be that meme, right? We want to be very factual, very academic about this. So the founders, well, I know I'm sarcastic too, but that's a separate issue. the founders of the National Socialist Party did not hesitate to borrow a portion of their Gnostic inspiration from Islam. Hold on. The founders of the National Socialist Party who joined this Thule society headed by a Muslim, Freemason, and Sufi, right, didn't hesitate to borrow their Gnostic inspiration from Islam. Now, this tells us, this high-ranking Sufi, this highly educated Muslim imam, effectively, is telling us that Islam is Gnostic. He says Islam is a religion still possessing momentum and providing accessibility to the esotericism of ancient Egypt. Islam is not a static religion. Quite the contrary. Its vitality is greater than that of Christianity. So Islam is alive and active. It's not as passive as that flabby Christianity. And it still possesses the esotericism of ancient Egypt. Hold on, so we're learning from this guy that Islam is Gnostic and it possesses the esoteric knowledge of ancient Egypt. I've mentioned this before. I've spoken, not even talking about this guy, Sebottendorff. I've mentioned other sources that talk about Islam's connections to ancient Egypt and the Gnostics, which means that it is also Hermetic. So now you've got to understand that Islam is also Hermetic. That is because it traces a lineage to Hermes Trismegistus, also known as the prophet Idris. Hermes Trismegistus, of course, is also known as the Egyptian god Thoth, and he's also known as the Greek god Hermes, which would make him the Roman god Mercury, who is apparently Idris, a prophet in Islam. You ponder that for a moment. Let that sink in, right? So this is Islam, saying that this guy is one of their prophets. So let me just check on the comments. I met Han Frank Son a few years ago at a Holocaust Memorial Day event. Fantastic. Amazing, Michael. Let me see. There's an Indian video going viral that said that Hitler was Christian who fought under the hooked cross. Look, just like the KKK burn the cross, that is the desecration of the cross. That is sacrilege, right? That is sacrilege. Don't forget, the very first symbol of the KKK was the Islamic crescent and star. Right? Of course, they kind of forget to tell you that in the history books for some reason. I have no idea why. But the original KKK symbol was the Islamic crescent and star. Right? Their book is called the Quran, right? Which is obviously a play on the word Quran, being Quran, the Islamic book. Right? That's their holy book, and so on. So the end grip of the sword is called the pommel. I'm not an expert. Many swords have that thing on them. Yes, lots of them have pommels. Not all of them have Turkish turban pommels. But fine. Hitler envisioned the Ottoman Empire as his own, that the direct influence as Ottomans had vanquished Middle East all the way to India. Okay, sorry, that sounds like English, but I didn't understand a word you said. Yeah, so look, the Hindus, Hindus, that's a story for another day. Okay, anyway, so from whence came its strength? From its hidden origins, from Islam's hidden origins. From a torrent which nourished everything at the time of primitive Christianity. So Islam was around at the time of primitive Christianity, and which in the Middle Ages gave rise to the most marvelous civilizations. So the Muslims had marvelous civilizations in the Middle Ages, and it was around at the time of primitive Christianity. So because Islam was before everything. It is not possible to understand this quest at the very source of the great religions. Zoroastrianism, Manichaeism, Buddhism, Islam, unless you put yourself within the outlook of the new masters of Germany. He says it is not possible to understand this quest at the source of the great religions. What are the great religions looking for? Then he mentions pagan religions, Zoroastrianism, the whack job that was money, Buddhism, Islam. And he says, because these religions express the outlook of the new masters of Germany. He forgets to mention Christianity here, probably because that's what you do when you're a Christian. You go to Zoroastrianism, you go to Manichaeism, you go to Buddhism, you go to Islam. So, yeah. So, maybe I should rename my series on atheism. Atheism is stupid. My apologies to atheists in the chat, but I've just heard too much stupidity from people who really should know better. Marvelous in Islam. Yes. So, let me see. Okay, in their mind, it was essential that any and all means be invoked to rediscover the thread of lost knowledge. And of course, this Hermes Trismegistus, he was bringing the wisdom of the ages, right? The prophet Idris brought the hikmah, right? The wisdom of the ages. So if you go to, hold on, let me actually just go here. Let me go here. Madame. When you go to this woman, Madame Blavatsky, you know who she is. She's this crazy woman. Madame Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy, the wisdom of the ages. Hermes Trismegistus. You can smosh them all in here and a whole bunch of other places. She's just one example. Right, so they claim, so the Hikmah, the Islamic Hikmah comes from Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus is, yeah. So understand the source of this is absolutely not Christian. None of it is. So the thread of lost knowledge, and in this intention to draw upon the traditional esotericisms, which alone would lead to the reconstituting of the great book of Aryan mythology. Mythology, they call it. It's actually mythology, like mythology, quite honestly. It must be shown that Eastern Freemasonry, and he means here Muslim Freemasonry, Turkish Freemasonry, still retains faithfully, even today, the ancient teachings of wisdom forgotten by modern Freemasonry, meaning Western Freemasonry, whose constitution of 1717 was a departure from the true way. So in other words, Muslim Freemasonry is the original and correct Freemasonry because they claim to have founded Freemasonry. So, yeah, so this is, let's continue. Gnosticism strikes again, exactly, and Hermeticism. The Thule Society is named after a mythical northern country from the Greek legend Ultima Thule, sponsored by the Deutsche, so they sponsored the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, which was later transformed by Adolf Hitler into the Nazi Party. We'll come back to this point again and again. It was a cover name used by Sebottendorff for his Munich lodge of the Gemanen Wallfahrter of the Holy Grail, the Gemanen Orden, Wallfahrter of the Holy Grail, at its formal dedication on August 18, 1918. It was not a working man's group. It included judges, police chiefs, barristers, lawyers, university professors and lecturers, aristocratic families, leading industrialists, surgeons, physicians, scientists, as well as a host of rich and influential bourgeois. So this is the hoi polloi, right? Wow, thank you, Laurie Pellegrini. Much appreciated. Thank you. I'm very grateful. So the membership of the Thule Society became the foundation of the Nazi Party. So this occult secret society founded by a Muslim, Sufi, and Freemason attracts all of these very wealthy, very powerful, rich, the top echelon society in Germany. And then Adolf Hitler joins it, and the next year he turns it into the Nazi Party. So the Nazi Party comes, you can say, directly out of Islam. The committee and the 40 original members of the new German Workers' Party, 40 members, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Muhammad was 40 when he got Revelation, Khadija was 40 when she, when she married Muhammad. That's so weird, right? Were all drawn from the most powerful occult society in Germany, the Thule Society. So let's see. Okay, let's continue. The Gemanen Orden, and also we're going to learn now why opera is evil. Because as you guys know, opera is okay, except for the singing, okay? So convinced that the Islamic and the Germanic mystical systems shared a common Aryan root, Sebottendorff was attracted by Paul's runic law and became the master of the Wallfahrters Bavarian province in 1917. The source I'm using here is Nicholas Goodrick Clark, The Occult Roots of Nazism, Secret Aryan Cults, and the Influence on Nazi Ideology. Of course, we also have to talk about secret Muslim cults and their influence on Nazi ideology. The Thule Society is notable as the organization that sponsored the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, transformed by Adolf Hitler into the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Nationalsozialisten Deutsche Arbeiterspartei, right? So that's the Nazis. The Gemanen Orden had a hierarchical fraternal structure based on Freemasonry. So the Gemanen Orden was based on Freemasonry due to the assumption that Jews engaged in secret organizing, and it would be best to counter their influence over the German public life by using the same method. Or maybe they just wanted to play secret society and just needed a scapegoat for that. They just needed an excuse. Influenced by Liszt's Ariosophy, the Aryan philosophy, it adopted a curved-armed swastika superimposed on a cross as its symbol in 1916. Now here's the odd part. Something I'd love for you guys to find. Please find me an original version of the curved arm swastika, right, of the Gemanen Orden. This is all I could find. I searched. Believe me, I spent time looking for this symbol, the Gemanen Orden's original symbol. printed on a page, scanned, and placed on the internet. If you can find it, I would love to see it, honestly. So this was a curved arm swastika superimposed on a cross. Everybody is trying to usurp Christianity. Everyone is trying to take Christianity and use it for their own purposes. Everyone is trying to take Christian doctrine, because remember, Jesus is in worldwide regarded as the highest example of moral purity. He's the moral example for the world. That's why everybody wants to co-opt him for their depraved and sick religion, for their depraved and sick ideology, right? Hitler, of course, went against Christian morality so heavily that he became the modern incarnation of Satan. This is why he's the polar opposite. This is why he's not a Christian, right? But if you guys can find me, and notice they wanted to co-opt the cross. If you can find me this original Gemadenorden symbol, I would love it if someone could help me out with that. Tony says it's just laughably ironic and hypocritical how anti-Semites bash Jews for secret Kabbalism and organizing while they're engaged in this stuff themselves. Exactly, they're hypocrites. They're always liars. It's crazy. It's insane. I mean, as I said, you go into the history of atheism and you're just like, you are just stunned. Just like, this is the history of modern atheism. It's insanity. So, Eureka, I found the video, but not in English. Okay, so many adjacent... drop me a link to the video, Yaakov, and I will try to get it into English and at least do subtitles for it. So, many ancient heresies came up in Nazi Germany. Yes, believe it or not. Okay, the rituals of the order were influenced by the theories of the Aryan race, by Freemasonry, and the operas of Richard Wagner. So, I don't think I need to tell you now that opera is dangerous. Okay, I have no idea how the operas of Richard Wagner, which are basically what you'd call mythology or fiction, made its way into Nazi ideology and the Gemadenorden, but okay, fine. If it's all cosplay they're into, great stuff. Okay, so yeah, opera. Opera is very bad for you. It's very, very dangerous. The Thule Society was a fragment of a much more important secret society known as the Gemadenorden, founded in 1911 or 1912, of which Sebottendorff was a leader, attested to by the fact that as early as January 18, we see him heading up the Bavarian branch. A primary focus of the Thule Society was a claim concerning the origins of the Aryan race. In 17, people who wanted to join the Germanic order, out of which the Thule Society developed, had to sign a special blood declaration of faith. As you know, when you go to the Catholic Church, you have to sign the same one. In fact, they use the same words concerning their lineage. The signer hereby swears to the best of his knowledge and belief that no Jewish or colored blood flows in either his or in his wife's veins, and that among their ancestors are no members of the colored races. Sadly, this means that I couldn't join. Yeah, this excludes me for life. That's unfortunate. Yeah, well, you can't have everything. Can't have it all. So I know that this sounds very Christian, right? Am I right? It sounds very New Testament to me. Or maybe people who make these claims are just dumb. Please let them know that they're dumb. So you can't join either, Joel. That's dude, we're just gonna have to commiserate together. You know, we there's an organization where you can go to deal with grief. They meet every Friday night at the bar. So I guess I'll see you there, and we'll try and get over it that way. Okay, moving on. So this is from something called Hitler's Monsters: A Supernatural History of the Third Reich, right, by Eric Kurlander, and it's, oddly enough, it's published by Oxford Academic and the Yale University Press. So I guess it's kind of Arnold Nathaniel, you must be so sad you can't join the Germanic order. Ja, nee. Ja, maak my kwaad, jong. Maak my kwaad. Wat kan ik doen? So, how this ties to fascism. Fascism is a very misunderstood word, and fascism, yeah, let's not even go there. It's just an abused word, right? It's just a badly abused word that's just been twisted out of all shape. All right. So, atheists and dais are stupid department. My bad. Sorry about that. I just get so frustrated that because look, we know that, okay, when you look at the history of atheism and you go look at the history of how tightly interwoven atheism is, how integral, how critical, how inseparable it is from socialism. And I don't mean socialism being nice to your neighbor and, sharing things with people. I mean the genocidal, vicious socialism of Mao, of Stalin, of Lenin. the murderous, vicious, totalitarian kind. Okay? When I speak of that, these atheists, sorry, I kind of lost my thread there, but you need to understand atheism has a propaganda, very long history of propaganda. And in fact, if you look at Lenin, Mao, Stalin, and so on, they speak of in their writings that the Communist Party and all of their sympathizers, all of their supporters must promote the propaganda of atheism. They must promote the propaganda of atheism. So they created atheist propaganda, anti-Christian propaganda. Now, if you go have a look at that anti-Christian propaganda, and then you look at these, well, atheism has nothing to do with socialism, Lloyd. Atheism's got nothing to do with socialism. Nothing. We are rationalists and we are factual. We're historical. We don't talk propaganda, Lloyd. We don't. Well, the thing is, when you look at the rational proclamations by atheists and you compare it to the Russian propaganda, they are identical. So I'm thinking, okay, so you just happen to fully align with and have zero conflicts with, I don't know, the murderous, genocidal atheists called Lenin, Mao, and Stalin, but they've got nothing to do with atheism, just like that's got nothing to do with Islam, and you have exactly the same ideas, you share exactly the same ideology, you share precisely the same propaganda, but you got nothing to do with each other. Bullshit. So, okay, now he says that this chapter examines the organizational and ideological connections between late Wilhelmine occult organizations such as the German Order and Thule Society and the early National German Workers' Party. The Thule Society and early Nazi movement shared a supernatural imaginary that transcended the particulars of their internal political and organizational differences. So the Thule Society and the Nazis shared a certain consciousness, right? They were all fascinated by Nordic mythology. Now, personally, I've read the New Testament a little bit, and I don't think it focuses heavily on Nordic mythology, but that could be me, I could be wrong. They were all fascinated by Nordic mythology and Germanic paganism, occult doctrines such as Ariosophy, and border scientific theories of race, the blood, space, the soil, and psychology, read magic. So these are borderline scientific theories. In other words, these are occult science. Just like Islam has science, religious science, which is crap science. These guys had scientific theories of the blood, the soil, and magic, which none of it's scientific. So let me just catch up with the comments. Usually I'm not allowed to become priest for 3 to 4 generations in the Catholic Church. And then we can look at Martin Luther was one of the prime people who lent propaganda weight to the Nazis and got millions of them killed. So yeah, we can talk about A and we can also talk about B. And you might think that, so we have to become Protestants because the Catholic Church is so bad. Man, you haven't begun to look at the dirty nastiness in the Protestant Church. You haven't begun to look at what came before the Protestant Church and where they got their ideas. That starts to get a little weird. So yeah. Let me see. What a bummer. Okay, let me see if I missed anything. Atheism has helped not a single good cause. Okay, yeah. Now look, there are some serious issues in atheism. We will discuss that. The Jews who would feign conversion remain crypto-Jews. They purposely infiltrate and subvert the church and state. Okay, so Divakar, we can also talk about the crypto-Muslims. We can certainly have a talk about that. Okay? And if you're a Hindu, I'm sure we can dig into Hinduism and find out that Hindus are kiddie diddlers like Mo was. I'm sure we can find a few very nasty, dirty, ugly things, whatever you might happen to believe. So, if you want to play that game, believe me, you're going to come under fire and things are going to look very dirty for you. And we'll find that Hinduism is trash as well, assuming that's where you lean. So the Jews would feign conversion, blah. The Nazis have used propaganda to hypnotize everyone subconsciously and glorify Helios. Yeah, well, okay. All caught up in your stream and Sam Shell. Thanks. Hey, welcome, Catholic Biblicist. Welcome. What do you mean the New Testament does not focus on Nordic mythology? Remember when Jesus fought Odin? Oh my gollies, thanks, Big Sofa. Yeah, I missed that part. I didn't read that one. Sorry about that. I stand corrected. Blood and soil is the exact same motto that modern Nazis use to this day. Yes, blood and soil. Pseudoscience. Thank you, David Soul. That is pseudoscience. But Christianity is bad because of the Eucharist. Yes, I know. In children's choir, I was asked to go and travel to begin opera training. My mom said it was my decision. I had no desire to sing opera. Rachel the Chevich says, when I read Greek Gospels with Israelites, Norway is the first thing that comes to mind. Yes, exactly, because that's what, it's Christian. Catholic, yet rambling about crypto Jews. Yeah, can we just not do that? Okay, because look, I will ban you. Let me be very clear. Okay, I have very little patience. I will ban you. Right? I have like zero patience. I have no time for this nonsense. Everyone has been feeding me lies for so long. I'm just sick and tired of it. That's why I had to go figure it out for myself. Hinduism is a completely racist theory. Yeah, it's nihilistic as well. So there are very dirty things in Hinduism. I've done some streams on that. Okay, so let's continue with this. In contrast to mainstream parties that dominated the first decade of the Weimar Republic, the NSDAP drew upon a broader, supernatural imaginary which spoke to a diverse social milieu that had lost faith in secular liberalism and lost faith in traditional Christian conservatism, and also Marxist socialism. So don't forget, they are socialists. The National Socialists were socialists. They just lost faith in Marxist socialism. Why? Because he said that Marxist socialism is Jewish socialism. He wants socialism, just not the Jewish version. He wants the Nazi version, please. Right? And also, he, instead of class socialism, because he believes the Jews were separating people by class, he separated people by race. And unfortunately, you cannot ever change your race. Right? In Marxism, you can change class, and you can then join, get on the good side of history, right? Whereas, and there's a whole story to that term as well. But of course, if your race is X and you've got the drop of blood in you that's of the wrong race, well, that's it. There is no forgiveness. You're done for life. I'm Indian, Oriental, and Orthodox Christian, but now balanced Bible-only Christian, still respecting my church. Thanks. So Marxist, socialist, communism, many faces of the same coin. Yes, Paulus. Okay, let me continue. Theodor Fritsch. The true nature and scope of the Germanen order remains shadowy. We don't really know exactly. Ostensibly, it was formed as a sort of mystical lodge within the more politically oriented Reichshammerbund, or the Imperial Hammer League. Okay, now we're talking about the secret practices of the Sufi Freemasons, which we'll get into much later. The mastermind behind these groups was the notorious anti-Semite Theodor Fritsch, died in 1933. He was instrumental in the invention of a biologically based anti-Semitism to appeal to those who had become disenchanted with the mass appeal of the age-old religion-based anti-Semitism. Now, thank you very much, Catholic Biblicist. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Now, where did the religion-based anti-Semitism come from? Well, here's your culprit, this guy. Yeah, back to this guy. This is where the religion-based anti-Semitism came from. Now, this is, of course, the guy that has nothing to do with Protestantism. Every time I talk about him, it's like, no, he's got nothing to do with Protestantism. I don't follow Martin Luther. No, we don't do anything Martin Luther said. No, I just read my Bible and I don't follow the Catholic Church, which is exactly what Martin Luther said you should do. And Martin Luther has nothing to do with Protestantism. Whatever. Okay. So, the GO was essentially a pseudo-Masonic order. So now you've got a Masonic order, right? So the Masons, back to the Freemasons, who are just awesome, right? And the Guido von List Society, we will talk about that in a different set of slides. The Guido von List Society was formed as part of this group and had similar mystical and anti-Semitic beliefs. And he becomes relevant in our talk on Hitler and Christianity. So hopefully you're starting to see now, I haven't really dug explicitly into Sebottendorff, but there's a lot of weirdness going on with the occult, with pseudoscience, with Hermeticism, Gnostic ideas, absolutely crazy occult ideas. None of these things are Christian, right? So, yeah, your thoughts on this. So, guys, is this making sense? Is this coherent? Is it logical? Is everything tying together, what I'm showing here? And is this is not, I believe, part of the mainstream discussion on this topic, but it is so relevant to what the Nazis were doing. I mean, this is basic history. So your thoughts, guys. Love your feedback on this. This is, just trying to test out my slides. Martin Luther has nothing to do with Protestant. Muhammad has nothing to do with Islam. Yes, Paulus, that's exactly what I've been hearing lately. So, guys, your thoughts on this. I'd love to get your thoughts. Let me see where I am slides-wise. I've probably done enough slides. So is this coherent and logical? Because after this, I run out of slides. Not run out of slides. I've done up to slides 40, but I've only got 2 more slides that are like ordered. Let me show you, and then it's raw slides that I am still working on. Theodor Fritsch was a German anti-Semitic writer and publisher. He founded the Reichshammerbund to promote anti-Semitic and nationalist beliefs and the Germanenorden. His writings are influential in the development of Nazi ideology, particularly his ideas about the supposed biological inferiority of the Jews. And the Jews were not wanted in their societies because when they married, they would bring down, their Jewish virus, their blood would dilute and destroy the purity of the Aryan blood. That's Hitler's crazy beliefs. He believed that Jews were responsible for many of the problems facing Germany and that they needed to be removed from German society. Rosemary, look, it's not. I've been attacked by atheists constantly, right? And I've heard too many lies, too many claims to rationality and to history, which is just complete fiction, and it upsets me. It really upsets me. That's why I go into such detail on these issues, right? That's why I have so many sources and so much detail, because atheism is very, very tightly linked to socialism. Atheism and genocide go hand in hand. The moment atheism seizes power in a government, you are going to have genocide. You are going to have totalitarian government. You're going to have oppression. This is the history of atheism that atheists really don't want to deal with, right? And they make false claims, misrepresentations of so many things. Now, yes, you can blame a lot of things on Christian doctrine, not doctrine, but behavior, right? Where humans didn't follow the doctrine, right? But yeah, when you start to look at these atheist beliefs and you start to look at its history, where it comes from, if you look at the pagan philosophies within atheism, the actual pagan philosophies, right, coming from the Greeks, when you look at the occult aspects in the 1700s, how these guys, just like these crazy people, were deep into the occult, how this affected what happened in the French Revolution, how these people were pretending to be, creating cults, literally creating cults, literally saying that atheism was the replacement of Christianity with the new religion based on reason. Atheism was the religion of reason, the cult of reason, literally created as a religion. There are numerous statements I can go around that. Atheism is a religion. It was designed as a religion. Its founders call it a religion. I can show dozens of these, and I have in my other videos. So unfortunately, it's just you get garden variety atheist, the village atheist that just refuses to listen to reason while yet claims so hard he's reasonable. Right? And this really upsets me. That's why I have such detailed talks on this, because I'm trying to bring fact after fact after fact that just bury people in citations. Let me see. So yeah, it upsets me. And this makes me angry because, you're talking about people that atheists in the 20th century murdered more people than were killed in all warfare in the 19 centuries prior, right? The amount of blood in the hands of atheist governments is phenomenal. And then atheists want to say, well, I'm just an atheist. I just have no beliefs. No. You're denying that there is an ideology. There's a whole set of beliefs attached to it. The fact that you aren't acknowledging all the other beliefs, that's fine. But atheism as it is, it's like someone saying, I'm a Satanist, but my duties are largely ceremonial. Well, it's still a shitty, sick religion. Understand? And in fact, when you look at actually, hold on, let's go there. Maybe I should do that. Let me just bring this up. Let's actually do this. Okay, I will finish here with this last slide. There is no doubt about the Nazi connections of Rudolf von Sebottendorff of the Thule Society. That's by Rohan Butler. He's a very famous historian, right? The medium, Maria Orsic, in late November 24, visited Rudolf Hess in his apartment in Munich, together with Rudolf von Sebottendorff, the founder of the Thule Society. Sebottendorff wrote, the Thulers were the ones to whom Hitler first came, and Thulers were the first to unite themselves with Hitler. This is why, also with the guy in the esoteric channel, who's like, well, the Sebottendorff had nothing to do with Nazism. Nonsense. Like seriously, are you lying? Was that a mistake? Which one was it? If it's a mistake, why haven't you fixed it? Otherwise, you're lying. This claim was received unfavorably by the Nazis after 1933. Now, look, I'm just quoting what it says in the passage, okay? But you can read that a couple of different ways. That could be a misrepresentation. Hey, Islamic Origins, welcome back. Okay, so esoteric organization. So after 1933, right? So he says this, and he claimed credit in this book. In 1933, he claimed credit for inspiring Hitler's Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf is my jihad. So this Muslim claims to have inspired Hitler's Mein Kampf, okay, which happens to have exactly the same ideas as jihad and anti-Jewish hatred and world domination as Islamic ideology does, as the Sharia does. So after 1933, the Nazis closed down esoteric organizations. They suppressed them. Many were closed down by anti-Masonic legislation in 1935. Sebottendorff's book was prohibited, and he was arrested and imprisoned for a short period in 1934, afterwards departing into exile in Turkey. But Hitler made an exception. In 1942, he had a law. His law banning secret societies and confiscating their assets specifically exempted the old Prussian Freemason lodges. Now, there's a Prussian that was very deeply involved with funding the French Revolution as well. This group followed the Nazi racial purity ideal far more closely than the humanitarian Freemasonry, quote unquote, as the unveils distinguished the different streams and shared Hitler's disdain for the other branches of Freemasons, not to mention for the Jews as well. That's in Hannah Newman, The Rainbow Swastika. Okay, I'm going to end this here. I'm going to go to something else briefly then, just to talk about some of this. We were going to talk about... let's have a look here. Actually, let me just start with this. Right, so all of this was coherent, right? All of this is making sense. And let me see. I mean, but although I will agree with you, where was that comment? Where was the comment? Rosemary, I mean, look, I will agree with you. There's a bunch of stupid Christians. Yeah, I've seen too many of those too. So I will agree with you there. And yeah, I've taken exception to those as well. I've spoken out about that as well. Okay, so this is an upcoming slide. I'll be doing this. I'll be doing this next week with Sam Shamoon. Atheism's history of socialism, and I should say anti-Christian violence, not just violence, but also specifically anti-Christian violence and subversion, political subversion, right? The cult of reason. So let's have a quick run through this. This is a photo of early atheism. My bad, sorry, man, This is a photo of early atheism, and we want to be a circus assassin, and when dealing with the circus, you go for the juggler. Right, that was a joke. Maybe in bad taste, but okay, moving on. Socialist atheism, a political religion. So let's talk about that. There's stupid everything. Yeah, so socialism is a socio-political religion and a counterfeit Christianity. Secular humanism is an atheist religious doctrine derived from Christianity, right? Basically a ripoff. Atheism is religious and an integral part of socialism and humanism. Atheism and humanism are religions as per the US Supreme Court. Don't forget, atheists went to court. They eventually ended up in the Supreme Court to fight for the right to be regarded as a religious group. They fought to have atheism recognized in the United States as a religion. They said, we are a religion. We fulfill religious functions. We are a religious group. So there you go. Right? Atheism and secular humanism were born in blood and violence. We'll be discussing the history. They are political. Atheism and humanism are political. They are proselytizing religions like Islam. And atheism in government is invariably totalitarian and genocidal. Islamic origin says atheistic infiltrators of the church often dress while doing mass. Yes. And this is, yeah. So we'll discuss that. This is what the Bible... Okay, Howard, enough of that. Don't repeat that again. Don't. So when a human is selfish, what does it matter if anyone else gets hurt or affects anyone else? Yeah. Okay, so here's 2,000 words on atheism, right? A picture can express 1,000 words. So now the reason I did this stuff is because I just got sick and tired of getting attacked by atheists, okay? And just listening to lies. And I will be unpacking this in minute detail. During the French Revolution, reason was a term that referred to belief in rationality, science, and the rejection of traditional religious beliefs and practices. It wasn't just a lack of belief, it was an active hatred of Christianity, right? The cult of reason emerged during the French Revolution, seeking to replace Christianity with a new religion based on reason and rationality. The cult of reason was founded in 1793 as part of the de-Christianization program. This is the government de-Christianization program. It was led by radical revolutionaries who believed that the traditional religions of Europe were oppressive and irrational, and that a new religion based on reason and rationality was needed to replace these irrational religions. The cult was based on the principles of the Enlightenment philosophy, which emphasized reason and rationality in human affairs. The cult's leaders believed that reason was the key to unlocking the potential of humanity, creating a more just and equitable society. In other words, they were socialists. They were crazy socialists. Or Satanists. This is the Satanic Temple, which happens to share exactly the same principles as the Enlightenment philosophy. They happen to go together like this. They go together like a horse and carriage. Yes, I did, Arnold. So, the cult of reason held that reason was the only legitimate basis for morality and ethics, that traditional religious beliefs and practices were irrational and superstitious, and the cult's members rejected the idea of a supernatural god and worshipped the goddess of reason, a physical goddess. They actually literally went back to paganism, a personification of the cult's values and beliefs, and we'll discuss that. So, while short-lived, the cult of reason, it was a real cult, a genuine cult, a religious cult, had a significant impact on the course of the French Revolution and the development of modern secularism, atheism, and scientific socialism. Let's have a look. According to Bertrand Russell, now let's look at William of Ockham and Plutarch. According to Bertrand Russell, William of Ockham did a synthesis by Anselm, Aquinas, and others. He believed that logic, now this is not to say, I'm not saying that Ockham did this, I'm saying that Bertrand Russell says that Ockham did this. He believed that logic and theory of knowledge had become dependent on metaphysics and theology, and he wanted to decouple theology from logic. Reason was then subservient to faith, so he set to work to separate them again. From this separation, according to Richard Tarnas, there arose the psychological necessity of a double-truth universe. Reason and faith were now in different realms. As scientific knowledge increased, the gap between faith and reason widened. So we need to look deep into the whole Ockham, okay, William of Ockham. We need to look deeper into that. The atheist French government recycled old ideas of primitive religion. They acquired from Plutarch, right, the Greek philosopher, and so they took ideas of primitive religion from Plutarch and they refashioned them into new state religious cults. So now atheism says, don't force your religion on me. So they go and create a state-enforced religion. So they actually have the state force religion on people, okay, a cult on people. The cult of reason and the cult of the supreme being, like, oh yeah, let's get rid of this irrational Christian crap and we'll make a pagan religion based on old Greek and Roman pagan ideas. That sounds fantastic because that's rational. That's what rational people do, because you can't have irrational Christianity, which believes in a supreme being, and then you know, we're going to just work on rationality and logic, and we're going to make our own supreme being religion. Okay, so because they were enlightened, because they were based on nature and reason, yeah, the cult of the supreme being, and not special revelation from a deity, what's important to take away from this is that what they forget to say here is that they believed in getting special revelation from themselves because they had the gnosis, the voices were speaking to them. Okay, okay, Howard, you're going silent for 5 minutes. All right, I've had enough, thank you. Right, so how does the age of reason connect to the age of the occult? We're going to be talking about that, Divan Khos. We definitely... Is that not several of Alinsky's rules? If you can be more specific, instead of like, you know, please just flesh that out, please. So notice here that Gray uses, so this is the book, How Socialist Was National Socialism. He says here, like bees, they were to make themselves always integral parts of the whole community. He says, Gray utilizes Plutarch, the same Plutarch we just discussed, to great effect, and the Greek's words could easily read like a description of Nazi Germany. So the most read philosopher in the French Revolution by the atheists, the founders of modern atheism, right? The very first atheist state and the first atheist religion, right? They all read Plutarch. They loved Plutarch. And here we got this information from this historian saying Plutarch read like he was a Nazi. He trained his fellow citizens to have neither the wish nor the ability to live for themselves. They had to be communal. But like bees, they were to make themselves always integral parts of the whole community, clustering around and about their leader, the Führer, almost beside themselves with enthusiasm and noble ambition. So in other words, the French Revolution rationalists loved themselves a little bit of Hitler. Gray's point is that in ancient Sparta, the individual was completely subordinated to the general ends of the community, socialists. And such subordination is the very essence of socialism. Understand? So these enlightened individuals were crazy, socialist, totalitarian, genocidal maniacs who are also occultists and complete whack jobs, right? We're going to look at that. So I'll skip this one. We'll talk about this. So for the French Revolution, let me just see. Let's actually just go here. Plutarch was the most frequently read author by men during the French Revolution. So let's have a look here. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Atheist de-Christianization by murder, because that's what atheists do. And I need to get into the satanic part in a second. On this one day, over 100 Catholic priests were jailed. And their crime, they refused to give up their beliefs for those of the new secular atheist republic, because the new secular atheist republic, everyone's a free thinker and you better follow our religion or we will kill you. That sounds a little, I don't know, Sharia-like, but this is what the atheists did because they were rational and reasonable. Great start, atheism. Awesome stuff. A mob stormed the prison and slaughtered 115 priests, and eventually in that month, they murdered over 1,000 victims. Okay? That's just one atrocity, just one. Yeah, atheism has nothing to do with atheism. Yeah. Right? Yeah, see, if Howard was on a different channel, he may be banned. Yeah, well, trust me, yeah, he's getting close. These atrocities were part of a deliberate, escalating campaign of violence known as de-Christianization. This was the law of the atheist republic, right? By which atheists violently purged religion from France in the name of reason and rationality. Of course, they ended up killing at least 250,000 people, over 260,000 people in the name of reason, because it's rational. I mean, what they said was, okay, they argued this was necessary so that reason would triumph over superstition and fanaticism. We have to murder all the Christians. We have to make them change religion at the point of the sword, like the Muslims did, because Christianity is bad, of course. So the atheists said they have to force people to change religion at the point of a sword or kill them because those people are superstitious and fanatic, and we have to threaten or kill them because that's the rational thing to do. Now, I'm sorry, atheists, but you know what the word for that is, okay? So this is the start of atheism, and I'm supposed to go, well, those guys are so rational. Bullshit, right? This is the start of the history of atheism. So let me see here. Very reasonable. Sounds what. So understand, these guys were taking a page out of Muhammad's book, right? They changed. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm not going to go into here. This is the worship of reason. They actually had ceremonies where they would worship reason, the goddess reason. They started the cult of reason, the first state-sponsored atheistic religion, right? Citizens could hear sermons that instilled virtue without any biblical language. Like when they had a funeral, they would have a talk about decomposition, I'm sure, because, no prayers. Well, let's talk about decomposition, the science of decomposition. Good stuff. The churches were deconsecrated into temples of reason, devoted to the worship of reason, personified as a woman bearing a torch. This is where the atheists come out. These people have nothing to do with atheism. Nothing to do with atheism. Yeah, this has everything to do with atheism. Yeah, they'll talk about maggots and stuff. Exactly, Joel, because that's inspiring. That inspires, gets into the heart of people. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about everything here. Let's have a look. The cult of reason was based on the principles of enlightenment. Its guiding principle was to exercise reason, and anti-clericalism, and we won't talk about the Gnostic stuff right now, but notice here the 7 fundamental tenets of the Church of Satan, of the Temple of Satan, has exactly the same ideas as the Enlightenment principles. We must act with compassion, with reason, with justice. We should and notice here, the struggle for justice must prevail over laws and institutions that go against justice. This is woke ideology 101. This is BLM today. Beliefs must conform to your best scientific understanding. And we should never distort scientific facts. We only have to be logical and factual. Yeah, that's atheist language, and this is from the Temple of Satan. Okay? The spirit of compassion, of wisdom, and justice must always prevail over the written or spoken word. In other words, your idea of what is compassionate, wise, and just must always prevail over man-made laws. That's what Muslims say in terms of the Sharia. It's exactly the same thing. We don't follow man-made laws. We follow the law of Allah. Well, they follow the law that comes from the voices in their head. And this is Islamic, niyat, intention of outcome. Your subjective sense stands over and above the law. Let's continue. Humanist Satanism, mostly atheistic. Hypocrisy runs deep in this bunch. Exactly, horse. Okay? Let me continue here. So, Anton LaVey, this guy, arch-Satanist, his Satanism is atheistic. It's a carnal religion. And believe me, the French Revolution was very carnal. Followers believe that all gods are fictitious, that ultimate importance is found in the self. Yeah, that's called narcissism, and pursuing self-interests. Satan is not a deity, but a metaphor. Satan is the ultimate adversary of irrationality and religious beliefs. So now you've got Satanism and atheism are like, yeah, we're on the same page here, buddy. We're singing off exactly the same song sheet. And this is where atheists will go, we have nothing to do with Satanism. So the name Satan comes from the Hebrew for one who opposes. That's a longer story. If they say, always look to the science, how can something like gender ideology exist then? Exactly, because they mean the science, the religious sciences, the occult sciences. I understand. I worked with a young man who said exactly that. Eradicate all religions in the name of peace because religion is bad. Yeah, and they'll murder you for that because it's the rational thing to do, right? Destruction of churches and the murder of priests. Well, it's correct, Horse. It is exactly how the Russian Revolution started. It's what the Protestants did when they took power as well. It's what the Muslims do when they come into an area. It's exactly the same thing, right? And he says here, okay, hold on, I'll skip that. And don't forget, this is Lucian Greaves, okay? He's from the Satanic Temple. He's their spokesman. It's not just that we're looking for disorder, chaos, and to undermine Western civilization. In fact, we're really trying to endorse, the Temple of Satan wants to endorse for Enlightenment values, bringing reason and respect for science into bettering the human condition. This is what secular humanism says. This is what atheists say. This is what the Satanists are saying. So, I don't know. Am I wrong to conclude that atheism is satanic? Am I misstating this here? What are your thoughts? I think I should stop here. And I mean, I think that's enough to get the point across. But let's just say the founding of atheism looks a little Gnostic, looks a little Hermetic, looks a lot occult, looks very satanic. It just gets weird. It gets very violent, and there's a lot of blood. So that's the foundation of atheism. And it's got a very short history. And in its short 250-year history, 270-year history, it has murdered more people than have been killed in the 20th century alone. Atheists have murdered more people than the 1900 years before. So, do you understand? There is something very bad about atheism. That's why they don't want to talk about atheism. Hopefully that made my point. There's a clear connections among all these philosophies. Yes, Arnold. So, yeah, hopefully this made my point. So, any thoughts from this? Was this all coherent, logical, sensible, right? I didn't just make this up. I mean, I'm getting this from sources, and I'm putting together notes on this and all that. So, okay, yeah. So, I mean, not every atheist. Look, some atheists, of course, are going to be just, look, I just don't believe in God. That's great. No, but the claim that you just lack belief. The problem is this: if you don't know about purple striped elephants, okay, and then you see one, or someone tells you about it, you no longer lack a belief about it. You've now been told about it. You have to consider that thought, and you have to decide to accept it or reject it. That's standard human behavior. And they would, by that point, have decided to accept it or reject it. They either believe in them, purple striped elephants, or they don't. But there's no longer a lack of belief. That in itself is a lie. So thank you, Yaakov. Much appreciated. Please don't be offended by my skepticism. I believe it is very relevant and the best form of evangelism. Skepticism, you need to look into the original use of that word. You know, it's like withholding judgment while you do your own investigation. Skepticism actually is a rejection of the Logos. Originally, it's a rejection of the Logos, and it's an accepting of the Gnosis. You know, the make up your own crap sort of thing. Okay, it's rejection of that. You know, the rational. You know, it's rejection of that stuff. That the Aristotelian logic, the logic of non-contradiction, it's saying no, we don't do that stuff. We do the fantasy stuff. We make things up as we go. So yeah, if you fall into that category, but anyway, George, I'm not interested in your off-topic posts. That's not communism. My communism is real communism. Yeah, it means you're embarrassed. It's like, that's not Islam. My Islam is the real Islam. That's not atheism. My atheism is real atheism. Atheism and communism go together like this. There's no separating the two. The two are critical for each other because you must reject Christian values. You must reject biblical values. They will utilize the Bible. They will strip it out bare and then still reuse the framework. They realize it's important. But we'll discuss that. So guys, this is the new work that I'm busy on. I've done a whole lot of new slides on my atheism stuff. So hopefully this was interesting and helpful. and you've learned something. So thank you. I think I'll end here. I've gone a bit longer than anticipated. But yeah, thank you very much for the support. I hope I haven't offended anyone. It's, yeah. I mean, I always run the risk of offending people in my audience who are atheists if I say things about atheism, and I'm going to risk offending people who are Protestants. I'm in the Protestant church, and I'm very unhappy with the Protestant church right now. So yeah. So, George, I think you're talking nonsense that I really have no interest in. So please, just stop. So, when you start saying something that's useful, maybe, but right now I just have zero interest in your take on it. I have more interest in things I can reference, citations I can go back to, which are multiply attested, things that have actually fit into history that I can go and verify. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. I hope this was interesting, and this is what I'll be working on, and I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff. So let me call it a night, guys, and thank you very much for being here. Much appreciated. God bless. Goodbye.